What I do is inconsequential. Why I do what I do is I get to shorten people's journeys every day. What I love about our hospitality industry is that it's our mission to make people feel cared for while on their journeys. Together, we'll explore what hospitality means in the built environment, in business, and in our daily lives. I'm Dan Ryan, and this is Defining Hospitality. This podcast is sponsored by Berman Falk Hospitality Group, a design-driven furniture manufacturer who specializes in custom case goods and seating for hotel guest rooms. Today's guest has over 35 years of interior design experience leading and directing design teams at Leo A. Daly, Rosewood Hotel and Resorts, and Four Seasons. She had her own interior design consulting firm, Madigan International, and currently she is the Senior Vice President of Global Interior Design at Las Vegas Sands Corporation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Eileen Madigan. Welcome, Eileen.
Thank you, Dan. Great to see you.
I'm so glad we were able to connect. As I've been doing this podcast for almost 4 years, I think this month is the 4-year anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. I've been speaking to more and more people, or trying to make an effort to speak to more and more people internationally, and people who maybe might not be ex-North America, but have a footprint, a global footprint. And funnily enough, I recently interviewed Bruno Viterbo, who worked for Sands many moons ago, and he was just speaking so incredibly about design and at that such a large global scale, and how you and the nuance and the attention and the care and the passion that's necessary to check all those boxes. So I'm just super honored to have you on as a representative of Las Vegas Sands. And I know it's Las Vegas Sands is the title or the name of the organization or the company, but really you guys are way more than that. So it's an honor, and very excited to have you on today.
No, Dan, thank you so much. I'm actually very honored. Amongst all the interviewees that you had, I'm just really taken back from the invitation to have this interview. I think that, I enjoy listening to all your podcasts, traveling around the world at different time zones, to feel connected to everyone's story just makes me feel like I'm a bigger part of a bigger mission. So thanks for doing this for the entire hospitality community. It's such an invaluable insight that means a lot to all of us. So thank you for taking the time to do this.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. And I don't know, I'm just honored to do it. It's crazy that so many people tune in and listen and are impacted in all these ways. And it just started as just like let me try this. And it turned into something really cool, or it's turned into something really cool that I enjoy. And it's definitely, well, I guess what I'd say is thank you for being a part of my favorite part of the week. So doing this weekly, I appreciate it. So you've had a career that spanned multiple decades, and now you're flying, you're slingshotting yourself all the way around the world. And really, to follow up on my conversation with Bruno, it's all about executing design and luxury, but at such an incredible scale across hospitality, gaming, retail, arenas, you name it. You guys are all over, and so many great new projects. And it's hard for me to get my head around the scale of Las Vegas Sands, number one. But from my past conversation, and also just talking and speaking with you, as large as the scale is, you're able to put hospitality at the center of all that as the filter. So before we get into our long conversation, what does hospitality mean to you?
Hospitality means to me a transformation of an experience through a written narrative that really captures the attributes of the location and the site, obviously through amazing design, but nevertheless, the attentive service is what kind of encompasses, I think, the overall defining hospitality. But I think also it's an everlasting memory. And I think that we all start out with projects, looking forward to what is that everlasting memory. And I think that when we, are in the design process and we're working through all the phases and defining each individual detail in those experiences to what is the real takeaway. And so I really think that at the end of the day, we're creating everlasting memories. And so that's kind of a overall kind of viewpoint from me in regards to defining hospitality.
Wonderful. And I'd love to get into the, like, as far as how large the scale is of Las Vegas Sands, and how you're able to kind of zoom in on the human scale through going throughout all these large projects, but we'll get there in a minute. One thing I we were speaking about just before I hit record is, you've had a 35-year career, right? And you started, if I remember correctly, just before the 1991 recession, right?
Yeah, 1990.
But you and I have been through many cycles, and through each of the cycles, I find comes tremendous opportunity, as our industry reshuffles itself and reorients itself. One of the things that I've been fascinated by is how much capital is out there in the world, and it's always just looking for the right spot to go. Um, I find that our industry for the past 5 years, as far as the hospitality design and development, has been in a recession slash depression for 5 years, right? And it's been a really tough slog. But as we at Berman Falk, anyway, are looking beyond the borders of North America, we see tremendous opportunity. So I was wondering if you could just for a moment, as your company is Las Vegas Sands Corporation, but you're truly global. What are you seeing out there as we're in this state of flux right now from a global perspective?
There's a lot happening. My focus is Asia. We have our properties in Macau, and then we have our property in Singapore. So the last 8 years, I've really been focusing on that region. And what we see is a significant change in China, and that a lot of the businesses in Hong Kong have moved out and they have gone to Singapore or have gone to other locations in Southeast Asia. So that's been a really interesting dynamic to see the transformation of Hong Kong, from a business perspective, from even a resource perspective of getting the right people that we need to execute our projects. So it's really, I think, you know, China is obviously a major player in the economy, and what's happening there and what's happening to in the United States is it impacts all of us. During COVID, Macau was the first to shut down, and once we saw that, we knew it was coming to the United States. It was just a matter of time. And we still see, we're seeing improvement in our business. But is it 100% back to where we want it to be in Macau? Not necessarily. In Singapore, it is off the charts. There's only two gaming companies in Singapore. We're one of them. And the success that we've had in this last earnings call is remarkable. And it is an attribute to our chairman, Rob Goldstein, and Patrick Dumont, our president and COO. During COVID, they made the strategic decision to continue on with all of the CapEx renovation work. And it was billions of dollars that they committed to reposition the brand to more of an ultra luxury experience, specifically in Singapore, and then a luxury experience in Macau. And I think that investment alone is now paying back kind of tenfold to where we stand right now in the market. But it is. It's not. I know the United States has probably seen a lot of recession kind of qualities, attributes, but we're definitely we felt it too. Everyone felt it, I think, shimmer around the world.
Well, one of the things, as you were talking about Rob and Patrick, who I don't know, and I'm sorry for not calling them Mister, but I didn't catch their last names. But as you're talking about Rob and Patrick, it it reminds me that earnings call of an earnings call many, many years ago with Steve Wynn, where he said, look, we may be an American company, but if we're not shifting our focus to Asia, we're not going to be in this game for very much longer, right? There's a real, and the United States even had this pivot to Asia under President Obama. Um, and as the world becomes smaller and smaller, um, and more integrated, it's really important to continue with all of those investments. And from that perspective, as far as like you said, off the charts, um, I don't listen to many hospitality earning calls or gaming earnings calls, maybe ever. Or maybe I should probably start doing that. But what, like, working for large firms in your past and now being at a global publicly traded company, like, what do you look forward to, or what stands out to you, or what do you pay attention to the most in those earnings calls?
Well, 8 years ago, I joined Las Vegas Sands, and it's kind of an interesting story. I was at Four Seasons, a VP of creative under Chris Norton, the president of Four Seasons at the time. And they had a massive restructuring, and they let 75 executives go through really a downscaling. And, I was kind of one of the numbers, one of the 75. And I honestly, this was about 10 years ago. And I was really kind of taken back because I had the opportunity to grow and learn and, network through the industry, and kind of always landed my next job in sync of where I was with my career. But I found myself that I didn't have a job. And Four Seasons was incredible in regards to the offboarding process. I can't thank them enough. And they gave me a life coach. And it was the first time in almost 20 years, 25 years, that I had a time to stop and think of who I was, what I wanted to really truly do, and really define my value proposition. And for all the young designers that are out there, I can't encourage you enough. I probably did it a little too late in my career. But, defining your value proposition, I think, is really important to create a succession plan and continue to stride for excellence.
That's awesome. First of all, that it's called an offboarding process. Like, to me, that sounds like a euphemism, but to hear that they actually give you a life coach, it truly is. And I think that's also what makes Four Seasons so special, as well as like a very high benchmark within our industry. So that's pretty remarkable, number one. Had you worked with a life coach before?
No, I had not.
Okay, because I've had many different coaches and I coach and mentor others. And um, it's one of those things where I never considered it, first of all. And then when I have done it, um, it's really hard work, because like the spotlight shined on me, and then I have to dig deeper and deeper, and to get to that sense of purpose, and like, and the why, what, not what we do, but why we're doing it, what gets us out of bed every morning, what gets us excited, and how do you intentionally, and actually that's a word I picked up from you when we spoke earlier, this idea of intention. But how do you intentionally uncover those things and then create a path towards being in that, I don't know, I call it like a zone of genius, or like where your best and truest self is. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's a lot of work. But what was when you first worked with that life coach, what were some of the tough questions that they asked you to, when you started looking inward to yourself? Like, when did that light go off and say, oh wow, this is something that's pretty awesome?
I'd never taken the time. I've traveled the world. I've probably been in about 50 countries so far. When I joined Rosewood, I kind of opened up my world to luxury design, which was a professional succession kind of goal or plan. And when I joined them, I was with them almost 10 years. I traveled the world and started to really understand different cultures and doing projects internationally. And when I really kind of had the moment to sit back and look at my career and the projects and the people I've been exposed to, my coach was like, you have an amazing stories and you have an amazing experiences. Like you really have to really kind of brand this. And, we worked together in regards to creating, even when I was out, creating excellence. One of the things that I've seen is projects at a very, very high end level. And, I chose that midway through my career. And if I hadn't really taken that time to really understand that that's what I really wanted to learn and really be a part of, I probably would have kind of plateaued with my career. So I took the leap and joined Rosewood Hotels out of Dallas at the time, and went on their journey of them being purchased by New World out of Hong Kong. I went to Hong Kong and transitioned the team there to understanding sense of place and luxury, and worked closely with Sonia Cheng in regards to developing kind of all the brand nuances in regards to the guest experience. So that was kind of once in a lifetime experiences. And then I went on, at that time, they said, Eileen, we're doing the Hotel Crillon in Paris. We need to, you need to stay there. You need to be there and
Twist
make
my
sure that
arm.
the project, twist my arm. So I found myself living in Paris.
Were you living in the hotel?
No. It was under massive renovation. That project was really a pinnacle project of my career to be a part of that. And
Wow.
the working with Karl Lagerfeld on the private suites in the hotel. It was 124 rooms, and it was 4 different designers. And it was an incredible experience. They actually, if you don't really know, that we hoisted the building up and dug underneath to create the spa and the pool and the proper back of house to
I do
service at the
remember hearing
level.
that.
So it was incredible. Initially they had these little Frenchmen digging buckets of dirt, and then when they could get a backhoe into it, they started to really excavate the underneath. So, it's incredible to see those experiences.
When you start, just so I'm clear and the listeners are clear, because I think working with a coach is incredible. And if you read all of these personal finance books about like your 401k or saving for yourself, it's always pay yourself first, right? And in essence, doing that work with a coach is really paying yourself first, even more so than the financial idea of paying yourself first, because I think we all owe it to ourselves to really dig in on what makes us tick and why we tick. So I just want to kind of tee that up for everyone, because like you have had all these incredible international experiences. So when you started listing those out, and I'm sure you have more than you can highlight some of them, but like from my experience, I went through this figuring out like why, like what's most important to me, what's my purpose. And I listed all these things that I love doing and that I've impacted others. And then I had this huge list. I couldn't even figure out like how to tie it all together. It was like this big ball of spaghetti. There were themes. I even made like a US Open, like 64 like bracket, and had each of these things that I love or might have or am good at, and had them fight each other and came to the end. And I couldn't see it. And it took a coach to be like, oh, Dan, you love the journey. You love the journey. And then I was like, that helped me focus. And then I went into, I love shortening other people's journeys and making sure that people are cared for along their journey. So once you started listing out all these experiences, and you can name a couple more, how did you, working with that coach, what was the next step to get it into focus for you that you're like, and had your light bulb moment?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it was a process and you don't really realize it because your life goes on and you're deadline after deadline and your planes, trains, automobiles, and your
Or you don't see it.
well, and also I didn't see it. And, I always have my head down working. And if anyone knows me, I'm like, what's the result? Where's the result? Everyone can kind of do the task and it be like, okay, yes, we got the task done. But it's like a lot of people don't really understand that the task gets done, but what was the end result? Was it ultimately everlasting beneficial and positive, or what did the getting the whatever topic done, did it not work? And I don't think people really understand results driven kind of mindset to really capture success. And it took me a while. It was an evolution.
It took me months and scores of journaling, scores of pages of journaling. I must have this many books full. I mean, it's intense. But anyway,
I think journaling everything you do, and I journal on an app every day, once in the morning and once in the evening, just to get my thoughts down because there is so much going across my world. It's massive and it's really fast paced, and so I have to be intentional to really be grateful and also take the time for me in my own mindset to process everything because there's a lot of things going on and I have to show up as a leader, as collaborative, positive, and really, kind of when times are difficult, of deadlines and construction is not going so well or whatever it may be, that you're really in the right mindset to deal with anything. And it's like, bring it on.
yeah, I call it stepping out of the batter's box. Like, okay, we're in
Mhm.
there, we're doing our thing, but it's really important for all of us to step out of the batter's box, get a different perspective, kind of shake off whatever's going, or be like, oh, let's do more of that. Um, but working with that and that offboarding with the coach, like, how did that, I don't know, like help you leap into into the position you're now? Like, how did it change your perspective, or what did you do differently, or how did you look at things differently after that experience?
They taught me I had a wealth of experience and knowledge, and I think never underestimate your skill set. Never underestimate your skill set, and especially for the young designers that are trying to learn, really take the time in your 20s to learn the process. In your 30s, start to really learn how to manage, and in your 40s really you start to understand how the businesses are run, and if you can really start to understand the overall umbrella of what our business is, you just become so much more, you have so much more clarity in regards to what you're going after. And I think that the coach brought me clarity of strengths that I was probably undermining myself on, and really, they explained to me, Eileen, write your dream job title and then go online and research, 10 firms or 10 companies you would like to work for, and make sure that the values are aligned to what you want as your ideal job. And who gets the time to say, what's my ideal job? You're always kind of fitting into a job description. And if you could sit back and take the time to write your dream,
With intention.
with intention and a clear thought process, not rushed and everything, or at despair, just really be open to what you really want. It's amazing how the world kind of manifests itself. And I remember listening to your conversation with Margaret and that manifestation of everything. And it's really, it's amazing how that actually happens. And so he said, go out to top of your mentors and your industry leaders and explain what you want to do.
But it also took Margaret, like, slapping me to make me realize, like, "Oh my god, like, I gotta think of things different. I gotta think things through a little differently." And that was
Yes.
very early in my journey of, like, purpose and
Mhm.
discovery and all that, and she played a seminal role in that.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Margaret, I love you.
Yeah, I love her too. She's amazing. She's amazing.
If I'm hearing you correctly, it's looking at your career journey and focusing on different elements of it, creating your own dream job. Because I think that, especially for younger people, um, what I find is, okay, you got to go out and you got to grind and you got to do your thing, right? and you just have to like make it work. But I think I loved how you said the 20s, 30s, 40s, because at a certain point in like the late 20s, early 30s, I think the blank paper exercise to me is where you take a blank piece of paper and make a line of the things you love and you're good at and the things you really don't like. And then focusing on the things that you love and you're really good at is a great way to like refocus where you're going. And whether I love tactically thinking about researching all of the different jobs out there and finding your dream job, because all of those things are inspiring as well. And you said something before we recorded that really struck me, because for everyone out there, it's like that adage I said about pay yourself first, invest in yourself. Um, we all hear this thing. It's not what you know, it's who you know, right? But what I'll say is you do have to know stuff as well. Like it is also about what you know and who you know, but you flip that into a really profound different way that kind of that really resonated with me, is that it's not what you know, but who you know. It's neither of those, but it's who knows you, right?
Yes.
It's
Who
who
knows
knows you.
you?
So how did you I'd never heard that before, but where did that come from? And I think that really, and what does that mean to you?
A coach told me that, and so I didn't get it. I was like, what are you saying? Like, I network all the time, I know all these people, I've got my contacts and everything. And when I went to reach out to several people in the industry, one of them is a dear friend, and I admire him immensely, is Tom Pheasant. And Tom and I did the mansion on Turtle Creek renovation project, and I kind of knew Tom when I was living in Washington, D.C. Um, but I reached out to him and told him everything I was doing. And he's like, you know what? I got a project. Let's team together and let's go after this RFP. So I said, okay, Tom, this is going to be an amazing opportunity. Let's go for it. And then probably like a week later, he calls me and says, I've got a different kind of opportunity, and I think you're the perfect person. And I said, okay. And he said, a client of mine, Rob Goldstein, Mr. Goldstein, and a client of mine, is looking for somebody with exactly your international experience. He is the president and CEO. He's now the chairman of Las Vegas Sands. He says, I want you to talk to him. And I said to Tom, I know nothing about gaming. I know nothing about massive integrated resorts. I'm really not the person. I do small luxury boutique kind of projects and understand that business model. And I said, I probably know somebody in the industry that would be interested in this position, but I'm happy to talk to him. And I'll reach out to him, we'll coordinate the call. So I called, we spoke, and it was probably about a 2.5 hour conversation. And we just went through kind of where Sands was at the time with their design and development team. And even on the phone, I said, Mr. Goldstein, I'm not your person, but I know somebody in the industry that would be perfect for this position. And he says, no, I want you to come out to Las Vegas. Just come out and meet me in Las Vegas. And so I said, okay, I'll come out. And so I came out for a one-day interview that ended up turning into 3 days. And every time I went to meet with somebody, I then met with the CFO, who's now the president and COO right now, Patrick Dumont. The next day, they kept on saying, can you stay one extra day, Eileen? Can you stay one extra day? And I was like, sure. So that ultimately, the last day, I met Mr. Adelson and Dr. Adelson and interviewed with them. And so it was, talk about being kind of, flexible and definitely willing to kind of have these introductions. I obviously, at the end of all of it, found the company very intriguing, and they offered me the position. And at first when I spoke to Mr. Goldstein, he says, I mean, when I was saying, I don't think I'm the right person for you, he said, no, you're exactly the right person. You know luxury inside and out. You've been in that industry for 20 some years now. We need you to scale luxury for us. We need to change our product. We need to change how we do our overall process of design. And we need you to come in and spearhead this. So the first, I would say 90 days, I observed everything in Macau and Singapore. It was very strong management style. And I came in and really developed the whole philosophy and the methodology to move forward to where we are today, offering the all customized design in every one of our properties. And at the level that we do it is very, it's ultra luxury, high end finishes, multi materiality.
I heard you say in the past, like working on Turtle Creek and all these other great smaller boutique bespoke properties. It's intimate, it's small, it's like, and you can go so deep into all the detail of what makes that all special. But you also said that when in hospitality, I think it was like a transformational experience, right? So I can't imagine getting my head around something as a one property going deep into details to get my head to expand and transform into these, like the global scale, the just the size, the sheer size of some of these properties with hotel, gaming, restaurant, retail. Like, how did you, aside from like getting onboarded there and thinking about this, like I know when I spoke to Bruno, he mentioned that like Wing Chao had like a way of like looking at the people in a rendering and not looking at the design, but imagine what was the moment for you to like how did you get your head around being able to get around such scale and think about going from a small one project to this like gargantua?
Well, I am pretty pragmatic. If everyone knows me, they're like, "Where's her Excel spreadsheet?" Because she definitely kind of gets everything organized. So, having to pragmatically like kind of lay everything out. And I studied all the properties, all the layers of each of the floors to fully understand what how the buildings work. And we have two properties, the Macau properties and the Singapore properties. So we're not in 75 countries or 150 countries and all over the place. And
You're there, right? But what I will say, I want the listeners to know, with those properties, you have $20 billion in CapEx across 70 projects within those two projects. So I guess at a certain point, that spreadsheet and going line by line and knowing all of the detail is super important. But like, they're so massive. So like, what was there a moment when you were like, you got your feet under you and you were like, oh wow, now I see the matrix, so to speak. Hey everybody, we've been doing this podcast for over 3 years now, and one of the themes that consistently comes up is sustainability. And I'm just really proud to announce that our sponsor, Berman Falk Hospitality Group, is the first within our hospitality industry to switch to sustainable and recyclable packaging, eliminating the use of styrofoam. Please check out their impact page in the show notes for more info.
well, when I came in and I really saw what we were doing, we were really, Rob Goldstein was really like, Eileen, how do we get the design level to our competitors? And I went through the whole process and I really looked at the whole organization. And I wrote an initial business plan about the people, the process, the product, and then ultimately the profitability. And when I came in and I really assessed the people, and this is internal and external teams that I was really assessing of who we were, what design firms we were contracting, and who were the people managing in-house, managing the projects, because we outsource everything. And when I really looked at the team, I had to recognize that to pull off and achieve the luxury level, I needed to hire a whole team of people that knew luxury in the industry. So I reached out to all of my network, and I reached out to a number of people and brought a number of people on board that said, Eileen, I'll come for the journey. It's going to be an interesting ride. I'll come for the journey, and let's roll up our sleeves and get into it. So once I looked at the people, I really started to look at our external vendors, from our furniture manufacturers to then our design consultants, and really established a list of kind of white glove designers. And I went to them and I had to do a sales pitch, and I had to convince them that we were the right partner to team with. And I go back to like early on David Collins days when I was in London, convincing them to do our Pisa project for us in Macau at the Londoner. They were a little bit skeptical, but then they took the journey with us, and they're like, Eileen, it's amazing what you have achieved in such a very short period of time. But we then looked at the process, and we were unfortunately stopping design firms at concept and schematic, and now we keep design firms on through the entire process. They are on the journey, assuring the quality of the finishes, the quality of the detailing is not compromised. We had to overhaul all of our budgets, and that really drove, our finance department crazy, because they were like, "Really, we're going to spend this per square foot?" But to achieve the offering that we're at the level that we're doing at it, they recognized that they had to make that significant investment. So we looked at that. Then we looked at all the schedules and revamped the process with the schedules. And we are where we are today, probably 180 projects completed.
Jeez.
And yes, in the last 8 years, we've done a significant amount of renovation in Macau. The Cotai property was underperforming, and that was my first project when we came on board. And to really take that kind of mass level product and you really tier it to the next level of premium mass. And now we tier all of our gaming product. We tier all of our guest rooms throughout. So we've become smarter at what we do. Space planning is a critical part of the process that we take a lot of time.
Okay, so these incredible projects that you're working on in China and Singapore, I'm very intrigued also by how you're taking what you've learned over the past 8 years. And now I just read that you're building a new all suites tower in Singapore. Is that connected to Marina Bay Sands, or is it totally separate? Is it nearby? I mean, Singapore is not that big, but
No, it's a major investment for us. It's a 55-story building. It's across the street from the current Marina Bay Sands.
oh,
And so you can cross the street, and we have a 15,000 seat arena for for entertainment, state-of-the-art entertainment. And then the 55-story stands on the other side of the arena. And the offering there is really to benchmark the future of Sands and their focus on ultra luxury hospitality, ultra luxury gaming, as well as luxury retail.
as you talked about that arena in Singapore, I just want everyone again to get your head around the scale here. It's 12. You're overseeing 12,000 guest rooms, 3 arenas, 3 million square feet of luxury retail and gaming. And I heard you say something. I love alliteration. So like where you talk about people, product, and profitability. What I loved about as you're assembling all of these teams, it's really the people. I mean, if you for what you're trying to execute and establish that, obviously all 3 of those are important. But when you're addressing a new project, such as this new all suites tower that's going up across the street, are you spending most of your time in the beginning really thinking about the people, and then you collaborate with them to figure out what the product is? Or are you guys coming into that as you're assembling your team with a vision already in place?
We come in and when I first kind of joined, the mission that was created is design excellence, and it's a philosophy and it is and a methodology. And it was a tough road to get everyone on board with design excellence, but it has tenfold been indoctrinated in design excellence, operational excellence, and riveted through all of our businesses across the across Sands. And so that is something that I'm very proud of. It took a while and it wasn't an easy road by any means, but I am determined not to give up. And I think if everyone that works with me say she's tenacious and she will not give up. She is, and every time I meet with my team and we're up against a difficult situation, I said, this is going to make us stronger and better. Let's keep going. Let's get the answers. Let's find the solution. It's right under our nose. And my team, my hats go out to Katherine Blaisdell, who runs the Hong Kong design office, and Evan Burton, and they're just an incredible team of people. I stand here and kind of, people see the numbers and everything that we do in leading the efforts of all of this. But my team across the regions are my lifeline, and they are an incredible team. They believe in what we do. They're very energized in regards to the quality of work we do, the uniqueness in the design, and really the design challenges. Not everything is, design firms, kind of roll out wonderful designs. We really work towards, we get the operational brief, we create a design brief, and we have our budgets and our schedules, and I'm always driving home the four fundamentals of a successful project. If any one of those things is offline at any phase, project of the phase,
Now, what are the four fundamentals?
it's the operational brief, the design brief, which we write the narrative, and that's what I do a lot with, is really creating the experiential
Ah,
environment that everyone walks into. So, we're really in there trying to sculpt the spaces out. And, is it a gaming space that needs high energy, or is it a calming space up in our guest rooms that we really need to transition the experience? So we're in there writing the overall experience for the guest and for the project, driven by the business and driven by what the operations is asking for. And then we're also looking very much at our own competition, because lots of our guests come from Macau to Singapore, Singapore to Macau. And so we're looking at differentiation in our product. And then we look outwards towards the competition and how we then create, obviously the design direction, the design vision. So it encompasses a lot of things. And the human scale obviously is something that we pay very close attention to when we get into the details, but we're very focused on the story of what the experience is when you open a jewel box mini bar and all the crystal and all of the specialty mixology drinks and everything. We're in there with the design operations team and the design team, creating all of the nuances. It's a labor of love, and it takes a lot of time. And I think that for what we do at the scale that we do is remarkable. We're in it day in and day out. I review all the projects once a week with each of the vice presidents of the regions to ensure that we're meeting our project schedules and the aesthetic of the design. It's a very streamlined process. It's a very fast process. Typically, most of our projects are about a 36-week design time for a hundreds of thousands of square feet. But you have to remember, we do one design scheme for our guest rooms. We don't do multiple schemes. We create tiers that we create nuances. So scaling is it seems overwhelming, but when you really start to hone in, I compartmentalize all the projects and really try to personalize those projects so that they have the right story and the interest to capture our ultimate, we are a gaming company at the core of what we do. The foundation of the company is a massive developer and willing to go into markets and create infrastructure and then create the integrated resorts. So it's an interesting company. And then, not talk about, you never know where you are in your career and you can take on all this work that we do. About 3 years ago, Patrick Dumont came to me and said, I mean, we have the largest privately held fleet of planes. And he said, we're not getting the design right. I mean, how can you go over to this aviation and help them out? And and all of the project managers and architects and everyone in the DPM office was like, oh boy, they're going to get the design excellence wand put on them, and and it's going to be an interesting experience. And the all the aviation team are incredible gentlemen, and they can operate planes like no tomorrow.
It is incredible when I'm like in Vegas for HD Vegas, and I oftentimes there's something going on at a suite up at Mandalay Bay, which kind of overlooks the airport there. And to see all those Sands jets just parked there, they're 747s.
Airbuses, Gulfstream.
It's unbelievable. And wow, so you get to take that design excellence and focus that on every aspect.
Every aspect of it. So my role has kind of morphed into a lot more than just like really focusing on design.
Well, I'm curious, what was the biggest improvement or leap forward on the aviation side of things as you started looking at it?
You know what? They were kind of piecemealing everything in regards to, let's replace the carpet, let's like, fix a few things here and there. And when we, was asked to say, okay, take the room product from Marina Bay Sands and integrate it. It's a seamless experience
Oh
from
wow.
picking up at with the Rolls Royces. We customize all of our Rolls Royces. So we do get involved in that. Then we did the jets. And so it was this seamless experience that we wanted to really create for, at that level, we call it our private jet clientele. And so we really wanted to really focus on that. And I think the design, everyone was compartmentalized in the different departments and really not having this holistic umbrella of the kind of transformational experience, in design. So we've overhauled 6 planes so far in 2 years, which is really unheard of. And talk about, learning a whole new industry when you're, well into your senior career here, to understand how aviation works. It's
Oh
fascinating.
my God. And all the constraints that must be in there. It's just unbelievable.
Everything has to be weightless. And so they weigh everything when it comes off of the renovation. They said, I mean, you only have so many X pounds. You can't put one more ounce into that plane. So whatever you do that comes back on the plane, it has to equal that same amount of weight. So
Wow.
we're always really looking at methods of we do a process called hydro dipping, which is like a photography kind of millwork that they create, and it's unbelievable. They do it like in car panels, like on your dashboard and stuff like that. Is typically like a hydro dipping, and it's incredible the level of detail that you can get with the product. And so it's kind of interesting to see that perspective. So my hats go off to Kevin Tyjer. He runs that all for me, and we meet once a week, go through everything. But yeah, I have to say, my heart and my extended right and left arm go out to my team to make this all happen day in and day out.
I want to go back to the 4 point. What did you call it? The 4 point strategy, 4 point plan.
We do an operational brief. We do a design narrative. And the operational brief comes first, and then we do the design narrative. So then we really look at the floor plans and we look at the project and says, what does this really want to be? And really then look at our differentiation between our market segment in regards to our our competition.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to jump in there on the competition is I think going back to the beginning of this conversation, where in North America, there seems to be a recession in CapEx and a lot of new product coming on. That's in it, just new product in general, regardless of innovative, luxury, whatever. Just there's been just a lot of headwinds. But one of the things I appreciate so much about how Asia has developed and the hospitality and gaming product that's come out of there, I love competition. I think competition makes everyone better. And I love that you're looking, and that plays such an important role of looking at the competitive set, because you're always one upping. I'm finding that in the United States over the past 5 years, without a lot of new inventory or just new product coming on, we've been missing out on a lot of that, I don't know, competitive crucible, if you will. So if I were to shift your focus from Asia to North America, what's exciting you most about what you see in North America coming down the pipe?
Oh, well, we for us, we were going to go for the New York gaming license. Our board of directors and executives have decided to decline from submitting an RFP. We're actively pursuing Texas, in particularly Dallas. We have a site in Irving in regards to that. The family, Dr. Adelson and Patrick Dumont, just acquired the Dallas Mavericks. So we are in the thick of NBA. We've just signed a deal for the NBA Macau. And we completely gutted the Venetian Arena to accommodate about 10,000 seats. And it was an entertainment venue that we converted over to entertainment and sports. So in October, there will be massive NBA offering there in Macau. So it's really interesting to see the sports, the entertainment, then obviously the gaming and the hotel aspect of the restaurants and the guest rooms and everything. There's always something that is really kind of evolving our brand and our overall strategy for the company to really be seen as a luxury hospitality gaming company. And that's what we're set off to do. But going back to your human scale, our ceilings are enormous, and you go into a gaming space, and I am constantly trying to lure designers to come over because there's not a lot of gaming designers. And when I take them through the process and say, just really look at the floor and the ceiling, which is totally atypical of designing a project in a room, is, it's a room without walls, because you can't see through anything, in particularly when you're working with 100,000 square feet or 200,000 square feet. So the design is in the ceiling and in the floors. And we really look at proportions. Scale is a huge, huge part of our reviews and how we push the design firms to really hone into those details. And some need to be exaggerated to get the look and the feel that we need to do. And then some really we get into multi-materiality, that we're really layering all that sophistication to give that glamour and give that luxury feel. And a lot of times initial designs, I'll say, no, it doesn't have enough. Go back and we want more. And they're like, more? And I'm like, yes, we need more. And so it's really quite, a fun ride to go through the evolution of the phases and with the design teams to create the story, keep it consistent through many a months of development to then really have a strong offering when you hand over the area to the branding team and to the operations and have them take it. And then there's nothing like handing over a space and letting the people come in and populate it and experience it and
Totally.
see what you've done in a very short period of time. We're very ambitious on our construction schedules. We have the construction process and implementation of the installations down. We get everything fabricated in China. Everything is all the panels are made over there, and it's a kit of parts that actually come to us. But we do a lot of life-size, large mock-ups to ensure that the design is right, and if we have to go back and modify things, we go back and modify it. Every guest room, we do a white box to make sure that, it's a white box model, full-scaled model to make sure scale and proportion is understood. So at that human scale, we're really monitoring scale and proportion and then do these life-size models.
Just so I'm clear, the white box is not necessarily a model room. You're building out the form so you can walk in there and feel how it is. I wish people would do that more, but it seems to just make a tight schedule even tighter when you start doing that. Yeah.
We found it to be the answer of rolling out 1,000 rooms because, it could be overwhelming to do 2,000 rooms, but we do that white box and get the scale and the proportions of whatever it is, viewpoints, archways, whatever we're working on, and then we roll into a model room. And between the model room and the white box, we don't look back. We go ahead and execute the 2,000 rooms. And that's how we're able to do things at speed. So we do carve out that time. And I have to say, I'm going to knock on my desk here in the wood. We have done probably, I would say, well over a dozen plus guest room, model room, first types, and everyone has gotten approved.
Wow.
Um, Sightseeing, executives love it, and we move forward with it. So it's a very decisive group of strategic um, thinkers and achievers to get that level of design and the speed that we do it at.
One thing I'm surprised by, but also grateful for, is that with all of the virtual reality, augmented reality, just immersive experiences that happen, I'm very happy to see that still most model rooms are done in a way where it's that human scale where you're going in and touching and feeling because of the renderings I've seen and those engines for VR and the headsets are absolutely incredible, but you miss the real nuanced touch and feel, and maybe that's coming, but like what's your opinion on that or your experience on that?
We do a lot of VR in our public spaces to because they're just so large. But I do agree with you. You don't look at all the nuances and the level of detail and the sophistication that we need to be looking at it without doing, we call it the white box or the model room. You don't see those two materials that come together that might not be the most like refined, architectural
And
detail.
you can't feel that jewel box mini bar open up and how the glasses and the crystal and the bottles of whatever are interacting with everything. A question, when is the, all suite tower supposed to complete in Singapore?
2030 and
Oh, wow.
doors open in 2031. We just did our groundbreaking with the Prime Minister of Singapore and the Minister of Sustainability with all of our executives. It was a great event 2 weeks ago. So we are that is what is keeping me up late at night, traveling to different parts of the world to really achieve the design
Awesome.
expectation.
It must be completely over the top. So I wish you a lot of luck with that. Eileen, I have a question. I want to go back, like your career and all the places and people from David Collins to Four Seasons to Sands to um, everyone that you had just mentioned and more, the Crillon. Um, if you were to go back and appear in front of your younger self in 1990 before you embarked on this journey, what advice do you have for yourself?
Get ready because it's gonna be an amazing experience, and little do you know where you're going to be and who you're going to meet, and believe in yourself, trust your gut like you do, don't ever not, trust your gut, and, enjoy the ride. It is an incredible experience, and, um, take time to be, just grateful, because it is, the industry and the people are incredible, and I would have never have recognized that, being that young, is that everyone in our industry really wants to support each other. And I think that's a commonality through your podcast here. And I welcome anyone from a mentorship. I really encourage my team to get mentors to really get that outside perspective and really embrace what's happening. You're going to go through all of the things like, everyone says, or, there's a saying, life is like 9 innings of a baseball game. You start off at the first, you're 10, you're 20, second, third inning, fourth inning. And, when you start to really compartmentalize a 9 inning baseball game to 10 years of your life, you have to really go after it and really pursue opportunities that might be difficult. You have to go outside your box. You have to go outside your comfort zone. In fact, those are the times when real things start to pivot your personal and professional growth. And it might not seem like at the time that it's fun and it's worth all of it. But believe me, it's just a little bump in the road that sets you off to keep climbing, keep going.
Totally. And then my other takeaway as I mentor, not necessarily as a coach, but as I mentor or interact or collide with others and impact them in some way, shape, or form, I'm going to start saying, because I've gotten so much out of having a coach, but that wasn't probably until my 30s. I'm like, I think it's good to start on that earlier. Like, get a life coach, get someone to help you like peel back the onion and get into what makes you tick and where you want to go, and don't just stay there. Like, people change, we all evolve. Do it again and again, and it's always good to kind of I don't know, dust yourself off and get a slightly new perspective. So I thank you for reminding me about that. I really appreciate that.
And you might think like, when you're working with a coach, or I don't need a coach, have my own succession plan, I'm getting promoted. But it helps you look outside yourself, and it helps you really get, like you said earlier, a different perspective, a different way of thinking. And I told you when I've got this book here, Dan, which I'm a big believer of. A dear friend of mine that is a coach, Sivan O'Leary, with Aubergine Partners, the 7 levels of energy. And I do this with my team, and my team will come in and say, Eileen, I'm a level 1, I'm a level 2. And I'm like, okay, so I know where their mindset is. And then I said, okay, we need to be, where we need to be. We need to be at a 5. And, great days we're at a 7. But it's a really interesting way to articulate and assess the room when you walk into it with this methodology and understanding this to really navigate the discussion and then slowly turn the discussions around to.
I know what I'm ordering now because I haven't heard of that book and I love reading those things. So and I'll put a link for it in the show notes for everyone. Um, but Eileen, this has been so wonderful, and to just hear about your experience and career and where you are now and flinging yourself all over the globe. I really appreciate it. Our listeners really appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you. And if people wanted to get in touch with you or learn more, and potentially become someone who what's the best way for them to do that?
Exactly. That's a great way of segue. Eileen.Madigan at Sands. And you can find me on Instagram, Eileen Madigan on Instagram. That's basically where you can find me at my email address, and I'm on
Perfect.
LinkedIn as well. And it's again, Eileen Madigan. Thank
Well,
you, Dan. I love what you do for the industry and for all of us. You bring a little bit of home when I'm at different parts of the world. So it's great to always hear your initial jingle. And I love that a little upbeat kind of thing. And I'm like, there's Dan. There we go. We're going
yes.
to have
Oh
another.
my God, it's shocking to me every time I hear it. I'm like, ah, but I'm glad you love
It's
it.
a happy little like, starter and everything. And I appreciate you taking the time and having the interest in my story. And I hope if anything, it can, obviously help the listeners and look forward to staying connected.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you so much. And also to our listeners, without you logging in and listening and watching and all the things that you do, I wouldn't be here talking to these incredible people like Eileen. So thank you. Keep tuning in. And if this changed your perspective on hospitality or gaming or global gaming or anything, please pass it along. We grow by word of mouth, and we appreciate you. Thank you.